Hello, everyone. Welcome. So, we are very happy to have Matthew here, along with his mother, Jane, and his former adversary turned friend, Sam, for this really special talk on an important topic. So, today you will hear Matthew's story about coming out at 16, his 5-year experience with conversion therapy, and his journey of finding peace afterwards. So, today, along with his mother, Matthew is a national advocate for banning these destructive practices and is a full-time advisory member of the Born Perfect campaign with the National Center for Lesbian Rights. So please join me in welcoming Matt to the stage. Matthew.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hi. Thank you, Kat, for that introduction. And happy Pride, everyone. Yes, that deserves a round of applause. So, I had a difficult time figuring out how I was going to give this talk, because when you go through conversion therapy for 5 years and are moved around the country in 4 different states, having psychotherapists trying to cure me of my homosexuality, a lot happens. And not just the impact on myself, but on the impact of all the lives around me, especially my family, my friends, and the impact that I have until this very day. So I figured I'm going to start with what happened right before I entered conversion therapy, and how did I get there? So I grew up in Great Neck, New York. If anyone knows where that is, it's like awesome. Okay, great. You're like my neighbor. And that's like 30 minutes from here, so I'm a local to New York, for anyone who doesn't know where that is. And, when I was in high school, I was fooling around with boys. I started maybe like in 7th grade. I thought it was awesome. I didn't have any shame or any guilt about it. I didn't have any reason to have any shame or guilt about it. But when I got into high school, that totally shifted what that meant to me. I noticed that all the seniors and upperclassmen were like bigger, taller, hairier, and I was like, oh my God, these guys are men. And it scared me because all they were doing was competing for all the freshman girls. And I did not relate to that at all. And so I was like, how am I gonna fit in? I don't have that many friends. And all I wanted to do was get accepted and fit in, and I knew that I had this like stomach pit feeling that I'm gay and I don't know what to do about it, and I just became a person who was in denial. And so, let's see what the first picture is. These are my parents. And it's a funny picture. It's my parents on vacations, and my parents, my father's Middle Eastern, my mom's American, and Great Neck is a really Jewish, conservative, Middle Eastern community. And my father built, when he settled there about a year before I was born, my father built his dream home. And it's this pretty outlandish house. It's really architecturally beautiful, and it really inspired me for architecture and design as well. And it really began to play in my role of hiding my sexuality as well. And my freshman year of high school, I became the party guy. What started off as like just having a few friends over on a Saturday night turned into 10 friends, and 10, 20, 50, and I was well over 100 teenagers all partying at my house. And I became popular. I thought I was in the in crowd. I felt accepted. I felt like, okay, no, this is working. But I really had no personal connection to anyone. And my 2 best friends were 2 guys that lived right near me who went to a different high school. And those were the 2 guys I hung out with on the weekends. So I was like already living like multiple lives. And as I began these parties, I was lying to my parents. My parents were really outgoing, so on any Saturday night, they'd be out to like 3, 4 in the morning. So I had enough time to have a party and to get everyone out, and I would be fine. I got caught a few times, but more or less, it worked. And so I'm creating a reputation, I'm creating a persona for who I am in high school, and there's 2 guys who are in the grade above me, Sam and Steven. And now they had a reputation for being troublemakers. If they're ever going to be at your house, they have the possibility of trashing your house, and it's not really someone you wanted to be on their bad side. So I didn't really know them, so it didn't really bother me. I was like, okay, if I ever have a party, they're just not going to be there, and I'll be fine. But as my parties got bigger and bigger, it was more than just my grade. My whole high school would come to my parties. And I blatantly made sure that these two guys were not there. So you can imagine this made them very angry. And it started like a couple years of turmoil between us. There was a few moments of aggravation. They had tried coming to my house at a party. I kicked them out. They tried throwing a party at my house. I stopped it. And it became like popularity war between us. And all I cared about was no one finding out that I might be gay. That's the only thing that was on my mind. And as this continued, I'm now a junior in high school, and it was the first Friday of school. So Sam and Steven are now seniors, and that's a really big deal, senioritis. And it was the first Friday. My parents we had a maid, a live-in maid, and I had a junior's license, so I just drove with her everywhere because I could drive. And so it was after school, I'm driving, and I pull up to a stop sign, and I see Sam and Steven crossing the crosswalk. And Steven starts yelling at me, "Hey man, oh, look who it is. It's Matt Shurka. Why don't you hit me with your car, bro?" And I'm like, this is ridiculous. These guys have been fighting with me. It's a new school year, and here we go again. And I rolled down my window, and as I passed them, I yelled out, "That's right, you fucking faggots," and I drove off. I had lost myself in that persona of making sure that no one knew what I was dealing with. I was hooking up with guys secretly, and I became the guy at school who wanted to fit in. So bro, fag, that's so gay, were all a part of my vocabulary. And I thought it was really, really smart, because then I would just blend in and no one would notice. An hour after I called Sam and Steven faggots, I was in the ER. And I got blown to the face, followed to the barbershop. And when I was in the hospital, my nose was about a ½ inch to the right of my face. My nose had 6 separate breaks and a gash from my nose up to my eyebrow. And let's see, this is actually the house. So I don't usually show a picture of my house, but it's sure you get the idea. Like, I had hundreds of teenagers partying here behind my parents knowing. This is the inside. So I was getting away with a lot. And the day, while I was healing, this is the process of what happened when I was healing from the fight. This is me in my bedroom at home, and this is the Monday of my first day back at school. And I thought I was so tough. I was like, I don't care, I'm going to school. And I, walked through the hallways like that. And so, yeah, I healed. I was fine, and my nose got better. That's me as a senior. No plastic surgery. It was totally cool. That was like a rumor that everyone started in high school that, oh, Matt got a nose job. But yeah, but what really happened that day was that I couldn't help but think that I got, ambushed by all these senior guys. And I knew that I was gay, and it meant so much to my masculinity. If they knew that I was gay, my fear is what would have happened then. And it scared me. So for 2 months after that fight, I was cutting school almost every single day. My parents could not understand what I was acting out about. And my father had a conversation with me, really pressing for me to share what is going on in your life. And I told him, I think I'm gay. I've been seeing other guys at school, the other closeted guys at school. I know I've been with girls, but I just really don't know what to do. I know this is what I like. And my dad was so awesome. My dad said, I love you no matter what. I'm always going to be there for you. And I thought like I was golden after that. So literally the very next day, my father freaked out. He had his own little panic of what it meant to have a gay son. And he started searching in the New York area for a therapist. And he came across a conversion therapist who told him, well, there is no such thing as homosexuality. And it's all part of childhood trauma. Everyone is born innately heterosexual. And because your son is so young and so inexperienced sexually, this is like, you'll start to see his heterosexuality come back in 6 weeks. My dad was thrilled. He's found an opportunity of a lifetime. And so out of my fear of ever getting hurt again, trusting my father and his love for me, I began conversion therapy. It was 5 years I was in conversion therapy, so obviously the 6 weeks didn't really work. And, you know, just to really say what conversion therapy was like, so you have to blame someone in conversion therapy. If you're not born gay, it came from somewhere. So I had a really fortunate upbringing. I had no trauma. My parents were great. They loved me. They spoiled me, if anything. And, you know, but I had to look for it. I'm the only son. So the first guess was, I have too much female in my life. So what I had to do was I had to spend as much time as possible with the other guys at school so I can learn about masculinity, learn what it's like to relate to other guys. Simultaneously, I had to avoid women at all costs. These are the first steps of curing homosexuality. I met my first boyfriend this way, by the way. And unfortunately, though, what that included was I actually didn't speak to my mother and my two sisters for 3 years. Now, what does that actually mean? My mother was never going to actually physically separate from me, so we lived in the same house, and I didn't talk to her for 3 years. So I would wake up in the morning, Mom would make me breakfast, I'd come down, eat breakfast, and I'd walk right out the door. And that's what life was like. My mom, both my parents, I would say, were naive about it, about what is homosexuality and what to do, and are following the guidance of a state-licensed therapist. And I was the one who actually became the police officer in my own home. When my mom started to see that this is actually crazy, there can't be any therapy out there that separates a child and its mother, she would actually try and talk to me and tell me, like, I love you, however you are, if you're gay or not, like, it's okay. And I would throw a tantrum at her. You know, how dare you? Because I looked at her as the cause of my homosexuality, and now she's ruining the therapy that I think is, if I have to save my life in order to become straight. So as much as my own mother tried, I was the one making sure that she was not going to get close to me at all. So the years went on. I became more popular. I actually now was getting training by my conversion therapists based on stereotypes of how to be a guy. I did very well at it. However, my depression grew. My grades failed. I was pretty much a straight A student before my conversion therapy, and I almost failed out of high school. And you know, there was a period, probably after my senior year, where I contemplated my possible suicide for about 2 years. Thought about when, where, how. I even shared it with a friend, like, oh, I had this dream, just to see what their reaction would be. And they laughed it off. You know, no one really could take it seriously, but it was something that was real because I knew I wasn't becoming more straight. As I became more of a man, my interest in men only grew. I knew exactly what I wanted and what I liked. And so the years went on. I attempted to have my first boyfriend. I told my conversion therapist and my father every detail, and my first boyfriend disappeared and broke up with me, not knowing why, and I later found out that my father had met with him and threatened him. And it was a friend of mine growing up. When that happened, I was just losing trust in everyone around me. I felt conspired against. I didn't trust the therapist. I found that he was lying to me. My own mother and sisters knew that why my boyfriend had disappeared, but I wasn't talking to them, so it's not like they were going to tell me anyway. And I moved to Los Angeles just to get away from it all. And for the next couple of years, I was in and out of therapy, conversion therapy. And there was a pattern that I was picking up on, which was every conversion therapist I met sort of had the same story. They were gay themselves, they cured themselves, and that's how they became one. So I was like, wait a second, have I actually ever met someone who's converted to heterosexuality? And I never met a single person till this day. I've met men who were in conversion therapy, married, and had children, and they say, yeah, I still have my attractions to men, I just don't do anything about it. And they literally treat their attractions to other men as alcoholism. It's there, notice it, don't do anything about it. And that's when I really started to question everything around me, the very thing that I believed in so much and was really trying to make work. And I finally had enough, and at the age of 21, estranged from my father at that point, haven't spoken to my mother in 3 years, nor my sisters, I left conversion therapy and moved back to New York. I became a server here at a restaurant in Soho called Balthazar. And it was a great experience. I had a boss that was gay. I had clientele who were out, executives. And it was really just inspiring to see people living their life, successful in whatever they're doing, and whatever their sexual orientation is, hey, it made no difference to their life. So after that, I was able to actually see a psychotherapist for the first time. I actually never seen one, an actual person who like does therapy. And it took, it took a lot of trust. It was a new experience for me. I also did a program called Landmark, which is a global personal and professional training company. And I got so inspired from there by mentors. And I started to look at my own life, how my whole life I was trying to fit in. And I noticed that the conversion therapists who were treating me were trying to fit in their own life. And my father, who I hadn't spoken to in 5 years, was trying to be a great dad. Now, I didn't believe that for a long time, and I went and spoke to him. So it was in 2012. I hadn't seen my dad in 5 years. My father moved back to Israel, where he's from. And I had a conversation with him. And I said to my dad, I want to see you. It's been 5 years. Can I come and see you? I'm going to fly to Israel. And I flew there. I was only there for 3 days. And I was with my whole family there. Everyone was there. And we were at dinner together, and I made like a gay joke at the table. Everyone laughed except my dad. And my dad said to me, let's take a walk. And he said to me, we walked away from the table, and he said to me, so, whatever happened to your conversion therapy? Are you gay? Are you not? It sounds like you're openly gay. And I said, yeah, Dad. I've met some really great people, some really inspiring people, and this is who I am. I am openly gay. And my dad started this rant, which he always says, I probably haven't memorized, how I can't be gay, I don't understand what the world is, and I'm going to hurt myself. And my automatic reaction would be to fight with him verbally to stop this. But I just listened, and it was for the first time through all my work and all my healing, I was able to hear how scared my father was. My dad was terrified. I'm his only son. He had no idea what to do about this. And I stopped him after 10 minutes of him rambling on, and I said, Dad, there is nothing to worry about. Now, I've never actually looked at my dad in the eye and said, there's nothing to worry about. I don't know if anyone really tells their parents, guys, it's okay, mom and dad. And, he looked at me, he's like, how can you say that? How can you say not to worry? And I was like, Dad, I know exactly what the world is. I know exactly who I am. And my promise to you is I will take care of myself as it comes. There's really nothing to worry about. Look around. We're here together for the first time in 5 years. Is there anything wrong happening? And my father said, okay. Now, what happened in that moment was I got my father back, and I recognized that I was never going to sacrifice my relationship with my father ever again. Now, this doesn't mean my father's going to march on Fifth Avenue during Gay Pride. That's the last thing he's going to do. But what opened up was a conversation. And my dad is someone I talk to almost every day. And when he has questions or things that he can't work out for himself about me being openly gay, we talk about it. And that's just how it looks like. And it's great. The next person I wanted to reach out to and make peace to, or start a conversation, I didn't know what was going to happen, was one therapist who treated me for 3 years. And this man was living in Los Angeles, and I didn't know what he was going to say, so I sent him an email and said to him, hey, I would love to share a conversation with you and share my accomplishments since we last met. Would you be interested? He didn't answer the email. He just called me 15 minutes later, and I had a heart attack. And I didn't pick up the call. He called again, maybe another 30 minutes later, and I'm like, just get on the call. I started this. And it was just like, hi, how are you? And I shared with him all my accomplishments. I shared with him how I came out, how I told my dad not to worry, that life's going to be good and it's going to be okay. And I told him that I'm going to become a gay rights advocate because I made a YouTube video that just went viral, and I just got invited to speak at the Creating Change, which is a national LGBT conference. And he said, wow. He said, he started to share with me, you're one of 13 guys I treated who I never cured. And I said, okay, so does that mean you're not practicing anymore? And he started to share with me how he was in a really bad place in his life. He spent all his money going to school, getting a PhD, and the last thing he thought he was doing was hurting people. And he says, I don't actually really know the full damage of what I did. And he says, I have a wife and 2 kids, and people won't even hire me right now, and I don't even know what to do. What was interesting was the table sort of turned. I now was like the therapist in a way, and he was like the patient seeking help. And I just really got the humanity in him. And we started to talk every week and just became friendly. And I shared with him that I'm going to be speaking, I'm going to be sharing our story. My years with you, I really cared about you. I believed it was some of the best time. I didn't realize the harm that was happening to me because I believed in the therapy. And I said, will I have your blessing to go speak nationally about this issue? And he said, of course. And please tell me everything that happens. We started to become friendlier, and as time went by, a lot was going on in the country. Conversion therapy became a national topic. It almost pretty much did not exist before. And there was a big lawsuit that started I was invited to be a part of against a few conversion therapists, some that had treated me, and I declined to be a part of it. And instead, I asked this particular therapist if he would join me in an interview where we get to share our story together, former patient, former therapist. And we created an article, I believe it's the next slide, this article. And it says, True Colors, Getting Over the Gay Cure. And we sat side by side. It was the first time we saw each other in 5 years. And we talked about together what conversion therapy was like for both of us. And I just recognized the impact of this versus if he was behind a bench and I was suing him. And I was actually standing for him. I wanted him to get the life that he wanted to live and what he was. Why did he go to school? Why did he become a therapist? I became interested in what he wanted in his life. And we got to create this incredible article together. So time went on. I'm now a advisory member to a campaign called, it's a hashtag Born Perfect. It was created by the National Center for Lesbian Rights in San Francisco. And our goal is, by 2019, we will end conversion therapy nationwide. Our advocacy has continued. So far, conversion therapy has been outlawed in 6 US states for minors only. And we have federal legislation right now pending in Congress. Considering that this movement has only started in 2 years, our progress has been outstanding. And we really believe that by 2019, conversion therapy will be outlawed. This is just another article. This is me when in Time magazine, I wrote an op-ed for Time, and that's when I was speaking in Albany. I got really pumped. I don't know how my hands got in the air like that, actually. It's like conversion therapy. So what I'm going to do next is, my mother's here. My mother is awesome, and I cherish my mother. Everyone who's a survivor of conversion therapy, we call them survivors. It really is something that you survive, because the LGBT suicide rate is very high. It's about 5 times higher than their straight individuals. If you're in conversion therapy, you're 8 times more likely to commit suicide on top of that, of the LGBT rate. And there are stories like Layla Alcorn, who made national news last year, a teenager who was in conversion therapy. It's happening every day. It's phone calls I get every day. It's Facebook messages I get every day. It's emails I get every day. Help, what can I do? I'm in this country, I'm in this state. We just had a teenage girl be removed from a conversion therapy facility in Texas yesterday. So this is like a real thing that's happening, and it's being spoken about more. So my mom didn't go through conversion therapy, but she went through a horrific experience with me, and what she survived was the advice that my conversion therapist gave me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have my mom, who's here, she's gonna come on stage, and I'm gonna have her share a little bit about what her experience was like as a mom, and ask her some questions as well. So please, Jane is her name, come on stage. And why don't you sit here? Yeah. Yes. It's not every day I get to interview my mom like this, so. Welcome. I never actually came out to you. I only came out to Dad, and I began conversion therapy. What was that like when Dad said to you that I was going to be in conversion therapy? What were your thoughts about it at first, and when did you realize that this is not something you thought maybe was best for me? Or you share what that was like.
I felt that you had issues. I never felt that you were gay when you were growing up. And I said, okay, you have issues. Okay, he tells me you're gay. That's the issue. Okay, that's fine. And my attitude was, that he's telling me he's going to conversion therapy because he told me you were confused. You felt confused. So I said, me not knowing about being gay, I said he's confused and he wants help. So I'll go for it. Let him try to get a conversion therapist and help you to be straight if that's what you wanted.
Sure. And then, okay, so then, yeah, what happened? What happened next? What happened in the coming months?
He searched for a conversion therapist, and he was telling me the conversion therapist is saying there's no such thing as being gay, and I was a believer that you're born gay. That was my belief. That's the only knowledge that I did have, is that I felt that you were born gay, but didn't know anything else about it. And when he said, in 6 weeks you're going to be straight, I said, okay. I think that's okay. I said,
sounds like a good deal.
Sounds good. I said, he's going to, because your father was very upset by it. And I said, okay, if it's going to help you, I agree.
Okay.
Okay.
I said earlier that you were trying to, you wanted me to recognize that it was okay. Yeah. And I was furious every time you did that.
Right. Well, look, before the 6 weeks, I knew that you're gay. I started to understand what is gay.
Speak into the microphone. Speak into the microphone.
I understood. Now, I started really looking at you and seeing this is not working.
I don't know. Okay. So, I don't want to know the evidence for that, but.
I understood. As a mom knows her child and understands things, and I understood that you were gay, and I wanted you to accept yourself as gay. The treatment was crazy. I felt it was crazy, but I said I don't want to give up either. It was 6 weeks into treatment, and I said you have to keep trying. Maybe we have to work this out, but I just saw as time went on that this is not working, and it's not helpful.
And what about we talk about 6 weeks, and I was in it for 5 years. What happened, between you and Dad? You and Dad, you got divorced. And I know that was something separate. But did you think, it really started when conversion therapy started? I know you and Dad had your own things, but you guys had a huge difference. You and Dad had a huge difference in about what was happening to me. We were a really close family. We never, we grew up as a family having Shabbat dinners, which is something we do as a Jewish family. It was like 30 of us every Friday, and yet I was coming home every day not talking to Melanie and Nancy, my two sisters. Where did you think it was all going? I remember where did you think that was all going?
First of all, I was going through a divorce with your father, nothing to do with you. So I had a lot of emotional issues myself. And I went for therapy to help me get my act together. And through that time with therapy for myself, I saw that this is not good for you, and that you're not talking to me, and I try to communicate with you. I was praying every day for you to come out and be yourself, because it was just a terrible place for you. I was sitting there realizing people take for granted when they wake up every day that I don't think about my sexuality. I never thought about it. I wake up, I know who I am. You were arguing with yourself every day. And I just can't imagine being in that situation. And I saw you that this is not the way to be, that you have to accept yourself the way you are. And with the conversion therapist helping you all the time and telling you, this man who has a license is telling you, maybe he knows better than I do. I'm realizing he doesn't. And he has a license, and we're respecting the fact that he has more knowledge than I have, or he's more educated than I am.
Yeah. You doubted yourself based on his own credibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to ask one last question, and we'll move on. When you saw I never even had a YouTube account, and I made one, and it was the first time I ever made a video. I made it for the It Gets Better project, which is for anti-bullying of LGBT teens. And the video, it went viral. It's not like it has millions of hits, but it went viral within 24 hours that it ended up on the cover of the Gay Voices of the Huffington Post website. And that's really where my advocacy began. What was your reaction when you saw the video?
I cried. I said, thank God that you're not going back. You cannot deny you're gay anymore. Thousands of people are looking at this, and it was a monumental moment for me, for us, to finally accept yourself. I was proud of you. I was so happy that you finally came to terms, because now we're going to go in a good direction. Now we're going to be in the right place.
Yeah, I didn't expect that video to end up on the news, but
It was all over.
But yes, I wasn't going back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd just like to say why I'm here as a parent, that I want to help other parents, because there's other parents in this world, in this life, that thinks the way I thought. They're ignorant, they don't understand, and I think it's so important that to accept your child. When he tells you that I'm gay, he's gay. He's not making any excuses. He's not confused. He is gay, and you should help him find himself in that direction. And when you do that, you will have your child. You wouldn't lose your child to 5 years of conversion therapy. He lost very formative years in his life for that therapy. Thank God he didn't lose it altogether. But I think it's so important, me as a parent, to put out there to all the other parents in this world that you should accept your children and love them and accept them the way they are.
Thank you. You can sit. Thanks, Mom. I almost debated about bringing her, but it was so great. And the fact that my mom advocated with me only last year the first time, and I never even considered that could be possible, that I would advocate publicly with my mom. And so just thank you for being so open, and this was such a personal experience for our family. So I shared with you how I reached out to my father. He and I are very close today. He lives in Israel. I reached out to my conversion therapist. He's no longer practicing conversion therapy, and he's moving on in his life. The last person I reached out to was Sam. Sam was the high school student who ended up breaking my nose. And why? I considered, like, why was I calling him? And I called him because I was apologizing for calling him a faggot, and that I was so lost, and so I was only concerned about myself, about no one ever finding out. I wasn't even considering what my actions are doing to other people. And so Sam joined us today, and Sam has become a friend of mine. And he flew in just to be here. He flew in from Los Angeles. This is the first time we're ever speaking together. We've had numerous phone calls. The first time we met was in 2013. And I discovered an incredible man. And he's flourished in his career, and he's living a great life. So it's a privilege that he joined us today and can be here. So I'm going to invite Sam to come onto stage, and we're going to ask some questions. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. This is so exciting for me, and I know you spoke for us. So I guess the first question I'm going to ask you is, what were you like in high school?
Well, I felt I was a popular person in high school, not like your jock or class president. I didn't do good in school, and I didn't play sports. But me and all my friends, we were just focused about, who could have the biggest party, who could do the most drugs, who could hook up with the best girls, and, who could, dominate in fights and things like that, and just trying to build our reputation around, more destructive things at the time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I thought that I had a reputation for you. Yeah, I had no relationship to you. Of course, I knew who you were. I knew of you. You're Sam, and yeah. Otherwise, I actually never knew you personally. So this is who you are in high school. And so who was I? Who was Matt Shurka? I know you moved from a private Jewish school and came to our school. Who was I when I don't know if you ever recall when we first met, but yeah, who was I to you?
So Matt was this, rich kid who would throw these crazy parties in his insane house. and they would grow bigger and bigger every single year. And it was the only party we weren't invited to. So obviously this made us pretty angry. And finally, there was like an event in school called Battle. And it's Battle of the Classes.
It's like color war for high school students.
And, usually one person has like an open house party where everybody in the entire school is invited. So me and my friends, we thought we would go. And tons of cars outside, like the whole street, maybe like 100 cars, and people just standing outside and waiting for the party to start. So me, Steven, a few of our other friends, we get up to the front door, and I don't know why you weren't so busy that you actually opened the door, but, Matt opens the door and is just like, doesn't say anything, he's just like, you guys aren't allowed in here. And I got so furious. I remember I just reached in and just tried to hit him, and somebody pulled him back, and then they shut the door, and we just left. So that was my experience with you, and it was just I couldn't understand why we wouldn't be invited to your parties. I mean, we were, I thought that there was something wrong. That you thought there was something wrong with us.
Yeah.
That we couldn't come and enjoy.
Yeah, it's interesting when you hear that. That was all before what was leading to the actual time I got hit. And yeah, I just wanted, it's so interesting to hear, when I heard you say that and I called you a couple years ago, I just wanted to make sure that I was getting along with everyone, and you not being in my home was like, okay, just had to make sure they're not there. It never even crossed my mind that like, our whole high school's gonna be there and I'm not there, what's going on? I was so preoccupied with that. So it was a year later when you were a senior and I was a junior, and we actually got into I guess we're calling it a fight. I guess, if you want to share what that was like for you, and more so, what it meant to you, like what the impact was of the fight. If you want to give a little bit of both.
Sure. So at that time, I'd already gotten in a lot of trouble, and I'd been arrested a number of times. And I wanted to start my senior year and turn a new leaf and just avoid trouble, arrest at all costs. And it was the third day of school on a Friday, and everybody was excited, obviously, to leave. It was excitement of your senior year, and all our friends were just going to get together and go have fun. So we step off school property, and immediately we see Matt to our left. My friend Steven, who's much more of a loudmouth than I am, started yelling at Matt some things. And I remember Matt just looking at us like with disgust. Like for some reason, he just hated us. And then he, as he's driving by, he rolls down his window. He says what he said. And we follow him. We follow him to the barbershop. And I'm staying across the street. I'm just thinking, I don't want to be involved in this. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. And but Steven runs across the street and runs into the barbershop. And I'm like, me and Steven have been through everything together. We felt, we always would rile each other up because we always felt the same way. We always felt we were outcasts, troublemakers, and couldn't get along in like our regular society that we were in. So the second I approach the door to the barbershop, I just hear yelling, Matt and Steven. And I see Matt come at me. My first instinct was just to throw punches. So I hit Matt. I hear a big bang, and then I see Matt's eyes roll to the back of his head. And I see his nose split open. I see the bone. I see a little bit of blood, and then I see him drop to his knees. And it was the scariest moment of my life. I thought I saw a ghost. And I thought that day that I killed somebody. And I thought that I've already been arrested. I've already been in trouble. I'm never going to get through this. I just ruined the rest of my life. We went so far as after that, we went to my friend's house, and I told Steven to hit me multiple times so he could claim self-defense. And that didn't work.
Well, thank you for sharing that so openly and being vulnerable. Yeah, I mean, that was the last day you attended our high school. That was a Friday, and Monday you weren't there. One of the things I said to you on the phone was, when I called you and apologized, I'm like, Sam, I didn't know who you were before. I don't know who you are today. I know nothing about you, actually. We were never friends. And yet I said to you, you are the single person who's had the greatest impact on my life till this very day. And I don't know who you are. And I said, I don't know what it was like that you didn't graduate with us, your class, you didn't go to prom, you weren't a part of any of that. I heard rumors that maybe you were in jail, maybe you were not. And, I said things like, I had so many options of what I could have done that day. I didn't have to roll down the window and yell at the word faggot. I could have just kept to myself. I couldn't even, all of our friends took sides, parents in our community took sides. There was like such a massive impact to what happened that day. And taking, just stop being worried about if I'm gay or not and people finding out and considering other people, I said, I could have actually been there for you as friends and we could have actually resolved this. What ended up happening was like our friends ended up fighting with all of each other as well as the years went on. And I took on that perspective and I wanted to, I took on like the idea of like being responsible in every aspect that, I went through conversion therapy and I'm a gay rights advocate today, but I was a person who used the word faggot towards others, not really considering what that meant. And I don't know, because of that fight, I don't know, it was because of that fight that I came out. I was a person in denial. And when that fight happened, it was like the moment where like, I can't hide this anymore. I'm scared. The fact that there's a group of guys that are able to do that is like, what am I actually gonna do with my life? And so it's funny how things work out in life is that it was because of that fight that I came out. Yes, I had to go through conversion therapy and get to where I was, but like I might have been in the closet for years, knowing the community we come from. My first boyfriend is still closeted, and he's my boyfriend. But and yeah, so I look back at it like it was a huge moment for me. And I want to ask, I got to hear a little bit about where your life went afterwards, and so what did happen afterwards, and where did that take you today, and like who are you today?
Well, just that moment of the fight, I really wanted to avoid trouble at all costs. So it was also a big turning moment for me because I just had this sense that I had to make a massive change in my life and like redirect all my energies, and that meant like a major overhaul, like changing what who I was really, who my friends were, what I did, every day. So, but where I went, I was sent to this, therapeutic, troubled teen program in the wilderness. It was either that or jail.
This is a court order.
A court order. And so there, unexpectedly, I had a, moment to be free. We were, this was a place where you literally live in the wilderness. You live off the land. You make your own fires, not with a lighter, with like local materials. You only eat rice, lentils, just basic things, and you are surrounded by strangers. And all these people that you get to know, you realize that, they're all just fighting for attention. And I had the time to reflect that everything that I was doing was, to gain the love and appreciation of others and just build my personal confidence in the society that I was in. So I had a moment to take a step back and to sort of think about how I wanted to direct my energies and direct into something more positive. And it really was, I was able to have the time to make those personal changes before I came back home and take a new path.
Yeah, it was so surprising. So that was the last thing I was I thought to hear. Like, yeah, you got a court order and you said you hated it when you got there and you walked away loving it. Was what you told me, and the impact it has. And so you live in Los Angeles today. What do you just want to share briefly what you do?
So I'm a project manager at a company called Juicero. They're a venture-backed food tech startup based in San Francisco, but we have an operational facility in Los Angeles that I went to help build.
Yeah.
So it's been a very exciting time there. We make cold pressed juice and try to help the world by selling organic products.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you. We're gonna do a Q&A in a minute. I just wanted to share that in my experience of this, what I got out of all this was that I was trying to fit into society. I was trying to, just doing it myself. I was falling into this game of popularity and throwing parties in high school. I get into this fight, I end up in conversion therapy, and the whole purpose was so I can be straight and fit into society that way. And that was the same goal. And as I saw that wasn't working, I saw that my therapist wanted the same thing. I saw that my therapist wanted to be a great therapist, and all he was doing was trying to succeed at that. When I spoke to my father wanted to be a great dad, and he wanted to ensure that I was gonna have the greatest future possible. And when I spoke to Sam and what his high school experience was about fitting in and not being left out, there was a pattern here that really everyone is looking to fit in. People want to be acknowledged, accepted, and loved. And it could be even the person you think is maybe your enemy, the person who's on the opposite side of the aisle. And as an LGBT activist, I was seeing this not just in the LGBT community, like we are standing to be accepted, but so is everyone else. And that's really what I wanted to share today. And it was a privilege to bring my mom and Sam here, and just, I just wanted to present to you here, like, this is what our story was, this is what we experienced together, and this is who we are today, and we both stand for making a difference in the world. And just really just thank you for having us. So thank you. So, I know we're gonna do a Q&A. If anyone in the audience has any questions, there's 2 microphones. I also know that there is people from their desk can ask questions, I was told. I'm not a Googler or a Giggler, but I know they can do that. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for coming. My question is, it sounds like you've rekindled, made amends with a lot of people that you had maybe broken the relationship with before, whether it be your ex-therapist, friends, whatever it is. I'd imagine there's probably some people you approached that didn't go as well. And I'm curious, how did you approach that situation? How did you overcome it?
Thank you. Well, I did. This is funny. Sam and Steven, so Steven's obviously not here. So he's the person who, that didn't go that way. So I called both of them. I tried Steven once, he didn't answer. I think I left him a voicemail, and I think I waited a couple weeks, and I tried again. And he picked up the phone, and he didn't say hello, he just said to me, I don't know why you're calling, I don't wanna know why you're calling, and I don't want you to try again. And he hung up. And I respected it. I was proud of myself for doing it. I had the same apology that I gave Sam. That's why I was calling. But I have to respect people's wishes, and I gave him that space, and we have never spoken since. And then, Sam returned my phone call, and we had this incredible conversation that led to us being here today.
If I could ask a follow-up.
Yeah.
You talked about when you called your old therapist and he called you back and you saw his number and you didn't want to pick up. Sam, when you saw his number come up, what did you do and what was your response?
It was totally fine. I mean, it was like, just another call for me. I think I called him back as soon as I had a chance. And one of our mutual friends, David Dinette, sent me this text of Matt on CNN. So when Matt called, I was like, congratulations. I saw you on TV.
This is the weirdest
moment
in the phone call.
Just started. I mean, I never yes, I didn't like Matt, but it was for silly reasons, and
why
I was just so past it.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
Why did you think I was calling?
I had no idea.
It was 9 years later.
I didn't think about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're just you're making juice.
I was making juice. Yeah. Just what does he have to say?
I don't know.
I want to hear him out.
Hey.
So I grew up in South Florida in an area that seems very similar to you, Great Neck, so a lot of Israelis, Jewish. Wondering, how much of this do you think is driven from the fact that your father is Israeli versus potentially the fact that you may not have had a bunch of friends who were gay who were going through this as well? Because one of my closest friends, when I was growing up, I personally think he is gay, but he never came out. He's married. He, I think, has a pretty bad marriage. And I think he's never come out because his father is like an extremely staunch Israeli. And I'm just wondering.
I'm relating to you, so this is why
Yeah.
I'm smiling.
So I'm just trying to understand if that was like what the drivers were, and if you think that it was leaning one way or the other.
Yeah, it's definitely an impact. Culture does have an impact. So first, my father's Israeli Iranian Jew, so this makes it like that much harder for him. We're actually, I'm actually don't come from a very religious home. I was raised traditional, almost secular, but we did every holiday. We celebrated Shabbat dinners every Friday, but it was really out of tradition. And my father was like this businessman, and he just saw like no possibility of me succeeding at all in life. Even though there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that people can be openly gay and succeed in their careers, he just felt like, my father hustled. He's pretty much an entrepreneur, didn't have an education, and he succeeded. And he felt like, there's no way you're gonna succeed. And if this is just in your head, I'm gonna help you get rid of it. And that was just like, what he thought. He still sort of thinks that. I took the position to love and accept him exactly the way he is, and that's really helped. We have differences, but I don't let that interfere with the relationship and its conversations. For your friend, who knows, that might really be possible, that he's afraid of not being loved and accepted within his own family, which is really the root of what the whole talk is we're looking for that. And we may be scared to come out because we don't even want to know that we won't be loved and accepted. He knows he's loved and accepted so far. For you as a friend to him, the advice I can offer you is just love him every way he is and support him. And being in this work, I meet so many people who are closeted or on the fence. Something I keep dealing with is I keep dating guys who are on the fence. This is something that has been a pattern that I still haven't gotten rid of, and it's sort of like I see how clear it is because of the field I'm in and the world I came from, being in conversion therapy. Something like I always say, I can't pee for you, and people just have to be able to do it on their own, if they ever choose to. If they want to have their full self-expression, have their authenticity to who they are. And as a friend, just no matter what, love, acknowledge them and support them. If he's married, love him that way. If he chooses to come out, love him that way. And because he'll know that he's in a safe space with you. And that's, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, hey.
What advice do you have for people who are gay men who are dating someone who has been through a traumatic experience or conversion therapy?
Oh, yeah, what's the advice for gay men who are dating someone else who's been through conversion therapy?
No, like someone who has not dating someone who is. So if you could tell your partners, if something you wish they would know or do.
So just make sure I understand the question. Let's say I'm a person who did not go through conversion therapy, but I'm dating someone who has.
Correct. What advice do you have for yourself then?
That's a great question. It also depends where the person is along their journey. Because what we're seeing with former conversion therapy patients, it becomes a lifelong challenge. Especially for minors who were in it, there's a pattern of they keep putting themselves back into conversion therapy because they believe they failed the therapy. I was one of them. I put at 19. My mother and father were not in my life, and I put myself back into conversion therapy because I thought I didn't try hard enough. And conversion therapists will tell you that too. So there is so much that they go through even in the years after. I guess my advice is, really listen, get where they're at. What are they comfortable with? What are they not comfortable with? And just so you can be on their page. So you know where they are. You know what to expect. If they're if they're telling you that they were in conversion therapy and they're being open with you enough about it, and there's things that it sounds like I'm not sure exactly what the problem is specifically, but there's a common thing is shame. I'm openly, when I came out of the closet, I was not proud. I came out not proud because I was like, what if I made a mistake? What if I want to go back into conversion therapy? What if I still want to try and be heterosexual? And I was out. And it took months, and there was specific people I met who I got like, I'm actually great exactly the way I am, and I can be proud of being gay. So I think it's if you're in a relationship with someone who's been through conversion therapy, really want to listen to them, hear where they're at, and just, and if you're, obviously willing to be in that relationship with them and go through whatever they're going through, just want to love and support them wherever they are. And get to know what to expect and what not to expect, and be good with it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cat.
Hi, do I know you? All right, so you said something universal for me when you came out to your father, and how he was like, I love you, I'm there for you, and then you went through what you went through in conversion therapy. And it really struck me because when I came out to my parents, and Matthew and I, we're two different people. I identify as a lesbian. I come from a family of, I'm a Hispanic family, very Catholic, very religious. And my mom said the same thing. She was the first person I came out to. And what was there was love and acceptance immediately. And I think that's always there, especially with that bond with a parent. What's there is always love and acceptance. But the next day, they sat me down, and I was like, oh my God, why am I in trouble? Like we had a little fireplace, and they sat me down, and they immediately wanted me to stop hanging out with my gay friends. Like almost like, what's the source of the gayness? Where is this coming from? How is this happening? It's like, oh, she's hanging out with these gay friends. They're a bad influence on her. We have to bring her back to church. Maybe she needs to go to military school. And then started suppressing my expression as well, in the sense of I wasn't allowed to wear certain things. I wasn't allowed to have my hair short. And I know it wasn't from a place of hate. I know it was all from a place of love. And then I look at what's going on in the country. Like, we have made so much progress in the sense of LGBTQ rights, and at the same time too, with this love and acceptance, there comes this uprising of discrimination laws for different people. And I almost wonder, like, what do you think is the source of that shame? And how can we impact the country to like really transform that conversation for people so we can impact it on a larger level?
Yeah, that's so great. I think the biggest thing is people sharing their stories. Yes, we are passing laws, and laws are very effective, yet it's not the thing that shifts the public opinion of a country. Right now, what we're seeing in North Carolina, what we're seeing in several states about gay marriage, there's a huge opposition to our conversion therapy bills that we're working to pass. And just because there's a law in place doesn't mean the mind of hearts have changed, if I said that correctly. And I think when people share their stories, share openly and authentically, that's when people get to relate to each other. And that's what really needs to be out there more. We're having a conversation about bathrooms, but where's the humanity in it?
Yeah.
And that's what I think it needs. What's so great, what we're doing here at Google is it's a month-long series of talks of people sharing. Those are some of the strongest and effective ways for people to relate to each other and what we go through. I come from a conservative family, and conversion therapy broke my family apart. When I tell that to Republicans, that really touches them, because they are all about the American family and the values of that. Where it's as a simple example, that's when it gets really political. What are those key points? But I really think the biggest things is the story sharing, people sharing themselves authentically, and that will also have laws move along and move faster, because people will start to be compassionate and relate to them and get the importance of all those bills.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I remember I had a mentor in high school when I came out, because I was going through what I was going through. And he said, I come out every day. Like, I don't come out once and that's it. I come out every day. And I feel like that's where a lot of us are too. Like, we come out every single day just so we can forward this conversation. So thank you. I want to also just thank you for forwarding that conversation of love and acceptance. Yeah. I know we had that conversation with that. So thank you. Yeah, because forwarding the source, just getting to the root of it.
Thank you, Kat.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for having us. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy the month of Pride here in New York. And a tremendous thank you from all of us. Thank you.